We're starting this in a second. I'm having some technical difficulties, but we're starting here in a minute. Mhm. Okay, so click this link. I emailed it to you. Oh, click on it. You have to make you the host. You actually get in there. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Unmute it too.
And then I need to use this probably. Thank you, Lynn, for saving our Zoom class. She hops back up.
Oh, you know where I'm.
Okay. We're in business. We have two troublemakers in the back, so Carol will have to try to ignore them today. So we have, I'm going to be going over a few different programs today for low and no down payment options. So don't worry if you don't get all the notes. I'm going to be outlining everything and I can send it in an email after this. I'll just need to take everybody's names down so I can get it to you. And then I need to present my screen. And course lines. Okay.
I thought you had a bunch of people.
I know. I had a lot of buzz about 1% down. And it took us like 60 days. We had started on the process, but it took us 60 days to get a hold of the program. So that's what I want to harp on initially. Because I do think it's better than a lot of the down payment assistance or no down payment programs. But the goal, obviously, in all of the programs that we're going to go over today, is just the fact that we're going to be generating buyers that wouldn't typically be able to buy, because one of the biggest obstacles is down payment. Okay, so I mean, what I guess let's pull the crowd, and two, if you're on Zoom, I'm going to open up the chat. So hop in, share on chat. What would you say out of the two is the biggest obstacle? Do you get the biggest objection as credit, or is it down payment? Down payment usually. I feel like credit holds a lot of people back from even looking into it. Like they just think even if their credit was there, you know, down payment is a problem. But chat wise, I don't know if anybody is chatting yet, but okay. So our poll here is saying down payment. I guess for me, because I see a different perspective, is more people are kind of just like more transparent about credit and credit issues with me. I think if we can, Mercedes agrees credit. Okay. I mean, they're pretty close, but if we can, fix the credit problem for them, which we have several tools, we can do it for free. We can do it with a soft credit check. There's really no reason to not be able to tackle the credit issue. the next obstacle is going to be your down payment. So with this new program, a lot more people are going to be able to afford a home. For the 1% down, they're still putting 3% down on the home, but 2% of that is a grant. So they're only bringing 1%. It does not have to be their own funds. It can be a gift as long as it's one unit. If they're doing a duplex, anywhere from a 2 to a 4 unit, it does have to be their own funds. So that's one of the loopholes, but I'm saying that this program is far superior to like OFA's down payment assistance, even though OFA will cover 100% of the down payment plus some of the closing costs. Because with this, it's a true grant. There's not a second lien that's done on the property. There's never any repayment, no matter how soon they sell the house. It's not going to be held against them. It's given. There's no strings attached to the 2%. Some lenders will cap the 2% at $4,000. We do not. Our only cap is a maximum loan amount of $350,000. Okay. So
who
that
qualifies
still
for
going to be a little
this?
bit hard to hit because
Kayla?
they have to be within a certain income limit. So that's why there's like a sweet spot where they earn enough to qualify for a $350,000 house, but they're not over the limit. I'm going to also do another comparison with OFA on this because with OFA, they take into consideration the whole household. Even if you have a 16-year-old that's working at Chick-fil-A, you have to count their income for the income limit to make sure that you're under the income limit. With this program, we only have to count the borrower. So if husband and wife both work, husband's the only one on the loan, we only have to count his income to see if he qualifies for the income limit. Yeah. So another way, this is a huge advantage. And we can qualify them for multiple programs. They don't have to pick one at pre-approval level. We can qualify them for multiple, and then they can decide which route's best depending on the house they go into contract on. Okay. The other thing I like about this program is some of them require a 640 credit score, whereas ideally we start out loans at a 620. Anytime you have assistance, you're not going to be able to take advantage of the 580s. But there are a lot of things we can do to help get the credit scores up. So I don't usually stress that too much because with that kind of gap, there's usually something we can do on the credit to get a quick rescore and get them into a qualifying state, whether it's paying down a credit card or adding an authorized user account. But 620 is ideal for this. With USDA, ideally they want to go 640. So 1% down is going to allow a little bit more space for less than perfect credit. Another thing about this program, it is not required for first-time home buyers. They can be second and third-time home buyers. It can be a conventional loan. It can be FHA. So it kind of overlaps. It goes over top of your the program that they're using. But I found that interesting. So by definition too, just to touch on first-time home buyers, anybody who hasn't owned and had any ownership in a property. So even if they're not on a loan, but their name's on a title, if they haven't had any ownership in a property in 3 years, they are now considered a first-time home buyer all over again. So that is required of certain programs in OFA. There are other programs in OFA with a little bit less better pricing that will allow for second-time home buyers. But for the most part, the other down payment assistance are geared toward the first-time buyers, and this one is not. Another nice feature is reduced private mortgage insurance. So private mortgage is actually priced out the same way a rate is. They're going to take in consideration first-time homebuyer credit scores, debt to income ratio, loan to value ratio. There's a lot of different layers that determine how much private mortgage insurance they're paying. If you were to price out the private mortgage insurance with a traditional conventional loan versus the Purchase Plus loan, which is the 1% down, is Purchase Plus, theirs is going to be a little bit cheaper. And then if you're going with conventional, of course, once they build up the 20% equity, that will fall off. So it won't be on there for the life of the loan if we're going conventional. With OFA, which OFA has a couple of different programs within OFA. They have several actually. One being a first responders. If they are a nurse, a paramedic, a firefighter, a police officer, a doctor, they can qualify for the down payment assistance program through OFA. The advantage to this is it's that there is a second lien on the property, depending on what kind of assistance they get. They could do 2% down, which would cover part of their down payment. They can do 5% down. So say we have them in a conventional 3% down loan, all of their down payment is covered, and then the rest of the 2% can go to their closing costs. So if you got a little bit of seller credit on that, you could essentially get them into the house with no money down. For that program, they're only going to put a second lien on the property for 5 years. It is not tiered out. So if they sell or refinance before that 5 years, the lump sum of whatever assistance they got is going to be taken out of their proceeds. That's why I don't like it for this market, because we're probably going to see a lot of refinance this year, and they're kind of stuck with OFA. If they buy with OFA, they're stuck with OFA for the next 5-7 years. Now OFA will refinance them in-house, but again, it's still going to be a little bit higher than market rates. Okay, so if there are no other options, this is still a better alternative than paying rent for another year and 100% interest rate. But not my first go-to now that we have this 1% down program, because a lot of times they have somebody that's willing to get the 1%, or maybe a 401k that they didn't know they could borrow against for the purchase of a home. I usually ask that too. A lot of people don't know that. Several people don't have the 401k to tap into either. The other thing with OFA, if they are not a first responder, if it's a traditional first-time home buyer loan, it's a 7-year lien. So 5% for first respond, 5 years for first responders, 7 years for the first-time home buyer traditionally. So a lot of times when I'm prospecting these clients, I will ask them what their goal is with this home purchase. Is this a starter home? Are you getting married? Are you starting a family? Like, what's your plan here? Because if this is a 3 to 5 year plan, we're going to have to figure out another way to get help down payment assistance wise, because this is probably not a good fit for you. If you're going to push your budget up a little bit more, and this is going to be a 10-year plan, then by all means, let's go up on it. There's 2 different programs within this Purchase Plus program. There's no specific property that you have to check to make sure qualifies for the 1% down. You can apply to any home, which is really, really nice. The income limitations is going to be based on where they're buying. So we'll have to look up county by county. It's going to be pretty similar county by county. But as far as there's a purchase, so Purchase Plus is the second program I'm going to talk about. The 1+ is the 1% down. The Purchase Plus is the 1% down with an added flat $5,250 bonus. So it goes straight toward their closing costs, points, down payment. It's just an additional assistance. So they're only putting 1% down, plus they're getting $5,250. You do have to be this is the weirdest thing. I've never seen a program like it. You have to be moving out of certain areas to get this. So if they're in, it's the weirdest thing. And I think so, like Mercedes, you and I had this where somebody was like, targeting her listing. So Mercedes took herself off mute. So a couple of weeks ago, she said a bunch of lenders were hitting her up for a listing in her area about the 1% down program. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm wondering if they're looking up the census tract, but they're looking at it the opposite way, because the Purchase Plus is looking at people moving out of the highly populated areas, low income, highly populated areas, and they're trying to get them to buy homes and anywhere else. Essentially. So where was your listing, Beth? Okay. So maybe they're just using this 1% as a way to reach out to you. Because it is a way to, I mean, it's a great way to market your listing. And so that's what we're gonna talk about too. But Mercedes, you were were you in the Firestone Heights area?
Firestone Park, yeah. It's north of that though. It's in
Yeah,
between
yeah.
Cole and
Oh, there you
Cole
are.
and Archwood.
Archwood,
Yeah,
which
Cole
is
and
it?
Archwood in Firestone Park.
Firestone Park. Okay.
It's like the north end of Firestone Park, so you know.
The north end of Firestone Park. So I don't necessarily know that they're looking at the census tract in those areas. Maybe they were just trying to have like a reason to cold call for a listing to help market. But yeah, she had a bunch of people reaching out about the 1% down. I was like, it applies to any house, really. As long as the loan amount's going to be under 350,000. So you can market this for any of them. If you're on this call and you're not on our, well, we have our app. So that's really nice to co-market because you actually have a mortgage calculator on there, which clients really, really like, especially when they're looking for properties through your app. This is very accurate with current rates. It's got a plug-in for our rate system and private mortgage insurance and an estimator for taxes and insurance. So it's going to give them a pretty true mortgage calculation. So if you're on this call, there are several resources that we have for you. One being the online app for them to start their mortgage process that could be co-branded to you. 2 is list reports, because that's going to put together a marketing packet for you. Anytime you list a property on the MLS, within 15 minutes, this marketing package will be sent automatically. And this is free to you. The third one I wanted to talk about today was Total Expert. So we have several shareable, we have flyers. Total Expert is all a co-branding tool. So I name you as an agent partner, you accept the invitation, you can go into a full library. Now, you don't have to use this if you're like, Kayla, I have an open house tomorrow and I don't have time to look up this flyer. Can you get this to me? I will absolutely be happy to do it. But Total Expert is essentially a portal for you to co-market these flyers for whatever, whenever and whatever you need. So we have several of them in there for the 1% down, and you can advertise this on Facebook. You can advertise this at open houses, however you see fit. You can even order yard signs, and you can do that all through the Total Expert. So you don't have to put together your own posts. For list reports, that marketing packet will also capture data for you. So there's a text for info code that's specific to you guys. So once I get you set up in the system, if you want to put that text for info on a QR code, you can put it on yard signs, you can put it on sign-in sheets. Anybody that texts that number for your listing information has to give their personal information to get the listing link. What that does simultaneously is it puts it into CRM for you. What is it? CSV form, so that you can put it into your CRM. So it captures the data for you. And even if you share things straight from list reports to social media, it'll give you data about clicks and responses from that post. So it's a pretty smart system. If you're not on those, it's free. All you have to do is shoot me an email. I'll get you signed up for all 3 of them. It's a no-brainer. I have some marketing people that are like trying to get accounts with realtors, and I was like, list reports does the same thing. Like, and we already paid for that for you guys, so it's nice. There is a free version, but what we have a corporate account that has more features, and that's free Keller Williams agents. And then the last program I want to talk about now, these other programs at the end of this is a slide. The Home Ready, Home Possible. This is a specific to conventional product. It is a 3% down program. They're layering the 1% down on top of the Home Ready, Home Possible. So again, you're still going to have 3% equity built into the loan by the time they close, but they're only bringing the 1%. And we're layering that in this situation. So you get the 2% grant on top of, again, the reduced PMI. We still need a 620 credit score. Another benefit of this, they can have a co-borrower, a non-occupying co-borrower on this loan, as long as it's a single unit. And they have to have 5% down. So they can still get the 2% grant. They just have to then bring 3% if they're having a non-occupying co-borrower sign, if they can't make the income on their own. That's the only reason we would add that. Lastly, and I don't have a slide for this, lastly, USDA. This is something I love to talk about. I don't think I've talked about it in a while. It's actually Jamie Kelly's, for those who aren't here, Jamie Kelly's in the room. And her and I connected on this program. So do you remember this? This is how we first got connected.
Yeah.
So I had a pre-approval with USDA. This is one of the programs that when I first got into business, they were doing Google AdWords, and we had a ton of leads come in for no money down home loans, which was USDA. It's not just for farmland, just so everybody knows, it's the Department of Agriculture. It's same concept, is get people out of the highly populated areas into the more rural areas. And when we say rural, we're talking about Canal Fulton and Tuslaw, anything west of Manchester. Okay, that's qualifying for USDA. So no, as long as they meet the qualifications, they're not over the income limit, they have the qualifying credit, they can qualify for no down payment. All the same rules apply to the appraisal as FHA. So if the sellers are willing to accept FHA and the home is in a qualifying zone, and I can look those up on their map, they can qualify for no down payment. The most beautiful thing about this, so I had a client, she didn't know if she could buy it all. She called me, I checked credit, I checked income. I said, yeah, you don't need a down payment. You can buy a house. And she's like, oh my gosh. I was like, do you have a realtor? She's like, no. I was like, oh. So I looked up, and Jamie and I had a bunch of common friends, and I was like, hey, I have this buyer. She has a pre-approval. She doesn't need a down payment. Can you help her find something? And she got her into a really cute little house in like downtown Brewster. And she's still there to this day. Now they have 3 kiddos. But it's a great program. A lot of people don't realize that how close they are to home ownership. And it can kind of catch them off guard. But additionally, and we're kind of shifting back into a market where we can do this. The last few years, it has been really, really tough. But for USDA, if you can get, the seller to pay those concessions, they can pay up to 6% on this. So the buyer walks to the table, the seller's taking care of the closing costs. Maybe they up the loan amount. As long as the house appraises, we're good. And they have no money out of pocket. They just sign on the dotted line and they start their monthly payments. Sometimes it can be less than the rent they're paying now. And now they're building their own equity. The other beautiful thing about this is it's 100% of the home's value. So you sell a house for $100,000, it appraises for $110,000. We get to use $10,000 toward points, closing costs, whatever else they needed to roll into. As long as it's on the loan estimate, it can be covered in the loan. It can be rolled into the loan. So the purchase price can still be $100,000. We don't have to do anything with that. But if we have a value of 110, you can now roll things in. So say something goes wrong on the home inspection and you say you want $5,000 worth of repairs done, but they're going to take the seller credit away. That's fine. We've got the value. Take the seller credit, get the repairs done. We'll roll the closing costs into the loan form anyways. It's great. And same thing happens when we go to refinance them. If we can do a streamlined USDA and the home appraises for more, if they have any other fees, any other debt they want to roll in, they can roll it in with USDA as long as the house appraises. Just amazing. Yeah, it's crazy. So I only took 30 minutes, but I went over 4 different with OFA programs. Do you guys have any questions specific to any of these down payment assistance, 1%, 0% down programs?
Same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the servicer that we're using for this one, it's a pretty competitive.
There's nothing that comes in.
I know. I was literally going. Yeah, I'm like, where's the lien? Where's the, like, no, I believe that there's some kind of grant that these banks are tapping into on a government level. That if they're able to get these loans sold, they're gonna be getting paid back by the government, so. What's the catch? Carol Cooper, what's the catch? Carol, what's the catch, Cooper?
My only thing is that not everyone like meets that income level. So it's like, they're like, why don't I get approved for it?
Well, are you saying they don't make enough to qualify for the loan, or they make too much for the loan?
I'm not sure. Okay, so without giving much, information about my person, but they wanted to stay within the same area, so they didn't qualify, right?
So they can stay in the same area. The income limits are set for the census tract, and they are reassessed every year. So they look at the median household income for that area based on the data for the year. And different programs will look at it different ways. With USDA and OFA, they are going to take into consideration the whole house's income. So mom
Gotcha.
lives there and grandma lives there and collects Social Security. Mom and dad both work, and the 16-year-old works at Chick-fil-A. We have to count all that dang income to make sure they're still under the limit, which stinks.
Gotcha.
This Purchase Plus program, if dad can apply for the loan on his own and make enough to qualify for what they want to buy, then we don't need to include anybody else's income to get them qualified. Does that make sense, Mercedes?
Yeah, it does.
This is definitely opening up a lot more possibilities for us than what OFA has allowed in the past. So that's why I wanted to do the 1% down. Carol, I know, was in my doorway. What, November, December? Yeah, they said it's coming. Here it is, January 15th. So yeah, I've qualified people for it. I haven't had anybody under contract for it yet. So I'm excited to see who's gonna be the first to do 1% down. But it's a pretty cool program. And we can start getting you guys set up on Total Expert and getting the shareables marketed, co-branded for you. And maybe generate some clientele for you via social media, just getting the word out that this is even an option. So, I'm gonna put my, let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and put my email in the chat. And if you're not set up on list reports, which, like I said, is the automated marketing packet, Total Expert, which will be the co-branded shareables and flyers, or our Simple Nexus loan app with the mortgage calculator, you can shoot me an email and let me know what you want to be set up on, and I'll send you the invitation for free. KWLens.com. Do I have any other questions? Let's see. I don't know how to see who's still on our Zoom. Oh, there it is. All right. Well, Stacy, Mary, Jay, Mercedes, thank you guys for joining us on the call. We've got Carol, we have Becky, and we have, or sorry, Beth Berkey. I always want to call you Beth. I'm Becky. Oh, Beth Berkey. Stop it. Oh my gosh, Becky.
That's why.
It just, like, no. It's the Beth Berkey. That's the Beth TV. And we got Carol, what's the catch, Cooper? If you guys have any questions about anything, feel free to reach out. Thanks, Stacy. Well, see you guys.
Thanks,
Things are
lady.
escalating quickly. We're gonna sign off because we're still recording.